Good Wednesday. Working on a sermon that I would call Talk is Not Cheap. And I'm digging into the book of James, which is a favorite of a lot of us. It is a very unique book. A lot of scholars say it's the only form of wisdom literature in the New Testament. And if you're digging a little bit, think, what is wisdom literature? Think of Proverbs in the Old Testament. James is sort of that genre of literature, and it's a little different than reading Gospels or reading letters of Paul, but it has a teaching component that's very blunt, that we're meant to not overreact to, but to think seriously about the teachings. James, in chapter 1, 26 through 27, I read that he tells us there really are three marks of being a Christian, according to him in this wisdom literature: to care for orphans and widows in their distress. And that's interesting. That's one mark of the Christian life that is clear, that can be qualified. Second, keep oneself unstained by the world. And third, that we'll deal with on Sunday morning, to substantiate Christian speech with Christian action. That is, in this today's genre, we would say to talk the talk and walk the walk, that your words would match what you do, that your speech is a spiritual instrument of truth and can be trusted. So he says those are the three marks of speech, and he's teaching disciples how important it is to watch what we say, but to know the power of the tongue. He talks a little bit about cursing, how the same tongue can bless that curses, that we can just as easily destroy with words as we can build up with words. And James would say, but we are responsible for all of our words. So the ones that tear down, destroy, curse, those are words that easily can go out of our mouth, but we can never pull them back in again. Their damage is done. And while there's forgiveness for the cursing tongue, the tongue that would destroy, we can't change the outcome. So he reminds us of how that little instrument, the tongue, is so powerful. And he uses 7 illustrations of how small it is and yet what big things it can do that we'll look at Sunday. In my mind, I'm thinking if he were here today, he might say, look how small a little virus is, but look how quickly it can become an epidemic. The tongue has that kind of power, how small it might seem, but words have bombastic power. He might say, look at a tiny atom. Now we know that a tiny atom can become a nuclear disaster if it's misused. So we'll think some Sunday about the power of the tongue, about controlling the tongue, and about what it is essentially that the tongue can do that Christians can use for the kingdom of God. And one is pretty simple, that as you read through this text this week in James, and I think I gave you those verses that we'll look at, but if I did not, James 3, 1 through 12 is where we'll look on Sunday. As you look through that, you'll find that Jesus is James' model for the tongue. Jesus did not at all waste words, and Jesus' words were clear and could be trusted. So James would reiterate that we have to be able to trust the speech of Christians, or it really has no value. And Christians say all kinds of things that some are true and some are not. We lose the value and the power of speech, and we'll think through that together. And then whether our words are used to help or to harm, to create or destroy, that is a choice every day. And even the nuances of our speech can sometimes be more destructive than we realize, and it gets outside of what Christians are called to be and do. The old saying is, talk ain't cheap, and it's not. Especially if we live our life as Christians, we understand the gift of speech, that we're the only creations of God that have this power to speak, which is how God is described as creating the world, speaking it into creation. we have that power. And it's a gift to us. And God does not control how we use it. He teaches us what's good and what's bad. And so we're responsible to think about what we say. Let's get together on Sunday, whether it's virtually, whether you're able to come on Sunday, and let's think a little bit about the power of the words we say. Again, this virus is rampaging in parts of Florida, and we're being very careful to look at what that means to us here in Walton County and in Okaloosa area. But we will attempt to meet while we can. And again, if you don't feel safe doing that, you have everybody's blessing to stay home and do what's best for you. But I hope you'll look at these videos. I hope you'll look at the worship on Sunday. If there are neighbors or friends that could use an encouraging word and you think about them, pass the video along. You're welcome to do that. And I hope to see you soon. Take care.